Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sharpen Podcast, brought to you by Acumen, a growth community for business owners and CEOs looking to grow and get to the next level. I'm Dan Cooper, CEO of Acumen. And my guest today is Augie Grasis. He's a multiple exit CEO, mostly in the technology space, a seasoned board member, and for the last 5 years, an Acumen growth catalyst, which is our fancy word for team leader and facilitator. He runs 2 teams in Kansas City, and he also has had the most, well, let's call them graduates from Acumen, CEOs who have sold their businesses and have decided to join Acumen as growth catalysts, and starting and running their own teams. So today is a fun topic. We're talking about when retired is the wrong R, or perhaps always add value, or some other title that we might figure out as we get into this. So Augie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I can't believe
So,
I've already been with Acumen for 5 years.
oh, did you
was
just
like
learn
2
that you've
years.
been here for 5 years? So yeah,
Yeah.
congrats, man. That's a good long season. All right, before we dive too deep though, give us a high level on your career. How'd you get to here?
Well, that'll be about a 30-minute conversation because I'm old. First off, Dan, I want to thank you for asking me on. And when you said, hey, will you do a podcast with me? I was very, very excited about that because I thought you were going to ask me some, about, my wisdom about running business, stuff like that. And I realized that, no, it's about retirement, which obviously I qualify because I'm the oldest guy in our organization. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate the privilege to do that. I'm a civil engineer by training. My dad was an entrepreneur. When I was a kid, I always somehow knew that my destiny was just to try to build businesses. My first business was a CAD software company, and we grew that for about 10 years. It was acquired by Autodesk, the company makes AutoCAD, that's still the largest computer design software company. Spent a couple of years with them. Then I started at my second company. I got really excited about mobile computing, and so we started Handmark, and Handmark made software for phones. We were actually the first ones to do news, weather, and sports on mobile phones. So if you want to thank somebody for all the time you waste looking at your phone, perhaps Handmark is partially responsible.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Then took a little break, and then I started a little company with my son in the freight technology business, and did that for a year or so until we merged that into a partner company, and then I took another little break, and then I ran across Acumen, and I realized that that would really be a great direction to take.
So I'm excited to kind of peel this onion because as you talk about things, when you say little breaks, we're talking about the big break, right? There's this stuff in between the stuff. And this is a topic that not a lot of people talk about or write about enough. All the TV commercials say, stop working, go to the beach, buy a boat, ta-da! Like, it's the end, you won, whatever that badge, they give you a badge and say, go on your way. So you've transitioned in and out of companies and then into your next season. So in your opinion, what's the process? What's the process like for you?
Well, I've got a boat. I got a beach house. I got a ton of hobbies and fun stuff. I got my race cars up here on the wall. But what I learned pretty much each time was that all of us, probably all of us, if you're an entrepreneur, certainly, you're wired to add value. You're wired to make a contribution, and that's really one of the reasons, particularly when I came back and went to work with Acumen, is that I found that it was just a fabulous place for me to be with entrepreneurs and help them a little bit, and perhaps at least be a part of them, growing and optimizing their companies, and also in my case and at my age, I didn't want to start another company because I no longer had the energy to be fully engaged uh, like typically an entrepreneur is, right? So that's one of the discoveries I made pretty much each time. So the first time I retired, when I sold my CAD company, and I left out Autodesk, my wife and I went on. We decided we'd take a trip every month. So we took some sort of trip every month. It's a little ski trip, or went down to New Orleans or whatever, and that was really fun, and it was a great break for 6 or 8 months. But not long after I left, really started thinking about the next thing, and I think I would say my learning from that was that actually both times is like, you built a company, you're like, oh great, I'm going to start another one. And I guess one of the things that we talk about some with some entrepreneurs I work with is that your memory is very selective. And when you're successful with your company, you're like, oh, just going to start another one. That was easy. And it actually wasn't easy. It actually wasn't easy. It's like, it's a big investment to start another company. And I guess finally this time I realized that, and decided to take a slightly different direction.
So what do you mean by that? You got to still add value. Like add value means a lot of things to a lot of people. What does that mean to you at this stage?
Well, so you mentioned get a boat and go to the beach, right? So
Yeah.
when you get a boat and go to the beach, um, you're a I don't know, you're a taker, not a giver, right? So, and it's fun, but you're not really yeah, you're not really contributing. So when I look at my day, and I say, well, so I grade myself. What did I accomplish? What did I, what were uh, you know did I have a productive day? And um, to me, productive means, did I add some value in some way, whether it's I mean, obviously you add value if you're with your kids, or with your spouse, and developing your relationship and so forth. But I guess, frankly, the way entrepreneurs keep score is, did you grow your business? Did you um, please your customer? Did you lead? Do a good job leading your team, leading your employees. So yeah, so that's what I call adding value, I guess.
So, it's interesting because obviously we all have lists, so we're all trying to crush it and every single day in our companies. And so as you start to kind of redefine what adding value means in this new thing, uh, you had to decide some stuff. So, okay, you ended up at Acumen, great, but there's a process. You have lots of opportunities and you can do lots of things. And so, how did you figure out what was some of the things that you wanted to add value to? What was that process?
Yeah. So actually, just had a conversation with probably my best friend the other day, and we're talking about um, he's kind of in a place where his a big house, and his kids are gone, and but he's and he built this house uh, to raise his family, and the whole thing, and it's been wonderful, and he's just like really struggling. He's like, well, now my kids live in another place, and thinking about maybe moving down there, but I just like don't really want to leave the house, and I've got all this stuff, and I don't really know. And we're going to talk about this, and we kind of decided to, that maybe the best thing to do is to start with, what do you want it to look like? What do you want what do you want it to look like when you're done? And don't be, uh, you know, don't be concerned about the path to get there, but just like what's it look like? What do you want it? What do you want your life to be like? 3 years from now, uh, and then define that, and then kind of figure out the baby steps in getting there. And I think a lot of times I certainly am one where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just can't even think of how, and you have to just put the steps aside at first and just say, okay, this, and be very specific about, this is the goal, this is what I want it to look like, and then figure out, okay, so what are my priorities on getting there? So that's kind of one of the things I've had to deal with, and I think it's a technique that's worked.
Sure. It's interesting, no matter where you are, start with the end in mind is still wise counsel. Like it just
Yeah,
because the season
yeah.
changes or the thing changes, it doesn't mean that you can't still start with the end in mind and
I thought
figure
I
out how
invented
to.
that. I didn't know that anybody else did that, but uh,
But the point is taken is we take the things that we've learned and we put them aside when we go do other things. And those
yeah,
models have
right.
worked all of our lives for some reason. Okay, so you don't just do one thing. You do you have, I don't know, a four-legged table or a three-legged stool. How did you think about the mix of fun, family, faith, value, all that kind of stuff? Like, what's your pie chart thing look like?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I can talk to that in a couple different ways. One, first off, I mean, hope everybody's listening knows that Dan is my boss. So, gotta, gotta be careful about what I say. But no, I actually think that for me, my role in leading, a couple of Acumen teams is just such an ideal role, because I do have family. I do have a lot of interests. I do have a few other business obligations as well. So what I do in my current life, and what I've been doing the last 5 years, has been devoting 2 weeks a month to Acumen. So in an Acumen team, you have really a couple of different. I have a couple of different responsibilities. One, I put on a team meeting at the end of every week, and then the way I organize it is, the week before, I do my one-on-one meetings with each team member, each of the dozen team members that we have. So that works really well with my life, because I do that for the 2 middle weeks of the month, and then the 2 other weeks I'm free to pursue my other interests. And then that's, I'm on another board. I've got a big family, so I spend time with them, and then I also have other interests, some sports and hobbies and everything that I do. So that just really, it's just a great cadence to my life, because I think one of the other things that, when people talk about retiring and stuff like that, it's really, and I've been there myself, where you're running a company and you're, just going 90 miles an hour. And it's like, wow, it'd be great to just wake up in the morning and just not have any responsibilities at all, and just not have a schedule, and just kind of like, well, that, I mean, it might work for some people, but that just didn't work for me at all, and I really need those, 2 weeks where I'm scheduled, and I'm running, and it actually energizes me, and I think it keeps me a tiny bit younger, and so I need that, and I love that, and I'm blessed enough to be able to, those other 2 weeks, kind of enjoy a little bit of that, freedom and flexibility.
Sure. Thanks for the infomercial, man. You get to resume being a growth catalyst for the advertisement. Um, so when you've had some others within your teams that have sold their company, and for whatever reason, you seem to uh, help them kind of figure out what they want to do next. So, what has been others' challenges or concerns, and then how have you helped them walk through? So everybody has a different process, right? Everybody has different like. So those are yours. Like, so now you've taken your version and you've helped a couple of other people through it. So what? Say more about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's actually been really cool and really rewarding. Where a couple of the growth catalysts that work within Acumen now have come from one of my teams, and they're neither of them are old guys like I am, so that's good. Um, but um, but yeah, I just loved what Sean Miller did. Right. So uh, Sean ran a very successful family insurance company, and he did a beautiful job transitioning it to the next generation of his family. So his niece became the CEO of the company, and he had like a 3-year plan where he really, I mean, she was there for a long time, but he brought her along, and it literally just like clockwork, and to where he just kind of started to step away and had more and more free time, and really got into it was almost like a little bit more of a part-time role, right? Um, but the thing that he did that I loved was that he had this whiteboard in his office, and he took his yellow, post-it notes, and every time somebody had a cool idea of what to do after they're retired, he'd put it up there, and I don't know, like every week or every couple of weeks or every day, I don't even know, he'd look at it and you know tear some off, go, I don't see myself doing this, so whatever. Uh, I actually remember the day that I said, well, you should put Acumen up there as a post-it note. Well, I'm already in Acumen. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about leading a group. You could lead it. You'd be great at that. And he's like, I don't want to do that. No, I said, well, just put it up there. You know. Then I don't know. I guess somehow it grew on him. As he started thinking about it. So, but I liked that because it was very free form, and he was. Uh, he wasn't making the mistake of just talking himself out of every idea. Just no, I'm not gonna evaluate it. I'm just gonna put it up there, and I'm gonna spend some time, looking at it again and again and thinking about it.
So have you have you made any bets that didn't work out in this thing? Any high experiments or something you're like, oh, I'm gonna go do this, and you're like, no, no, thank you.
I would say probably one where was uh, was both I mean, it's something I enjoyed, but at the same time, I think it was probably the wrong thing when when my son and I started the our company, which was called Freighter Gator, and it was a freight online freight booking company, and we really we partnered with with a established freight company, and they sort of had the vision, and we were able to build it, and it was really fun to work with my son from the standpoint that he's a guy about your age, actually was in college same time you were at Mizzou, so uh, and so we had fun working together. But I just I guess that was where I was kind of surprised and kind of forgotten about the great investment it took to start a business, and it was just like, wow, I'm no, I'd sold Handmark, I don't know, probably about a year earlier, and sort of got talked into doing this, and it was it was a big commitment, and I was like, because the difference between, say, Acumen and that was that you never really you can never really completely leave it at work, right? It's your business, and it's got to succeed, and it doesn't always follow your schedule, as all entrepreneurs know, So whereas Acumen is really more just about being a sounding board for these entrepreneurs, and it's kind of more, I guess, more scheduled. It's like working in the emergency room rather than being a general practitioner doctor. I don't know.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so start with the end in mind. Um, and then start putting yourself out there. Experiment and put some stuff on the list. Get feedback from other people, and add value somehow, somewhere. Those are good things. Uh, it's in that add value comment. I'm curious for you, how important is the commerce part, right? So as an entrepreneur, how do you keep score? Well, you put dollars on the board. So some people call it impact now, or I mean, there's all sorts of ways to like this value add thing, how you score. So how are you keeping score?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think what's been interesting to me, in Acumen is really watching. I mean, and it actually is it's truly amazing uh, how most of the companies that I work with have done so very, very well, not because of me, but because just of the interaction with the other CEOs and so forth. But I think where I get my satisfaction is just taking a snapshot and looking back, say when certain CEOs joined, and just how much better run their companies are now versus then. I mean, just putting the tools in place to really, really, something like EOS, which is a, very, much more structured and much more efficient way to convert your long-term goals into daily actions, right? And just watching, uh, seeing these companies be so much better managed to the point where I was like, wow, I don't know if anybody can add any value to this. You guys are really smoking, and obviously, um, through these difficult times, that kind of thing is just so important because there's so much change going on. Whether it was COVID, and now, I think AI is going to be such a huge mover. And we're all going to have to adapt to that. And so you've got to have you got to have your wheels well greased, and your operation really running smoothly, so that you can focus on these challenges. We had, I, I guess probably I think the proudest, I don't know proudest, but the most pleased I was during COVID, when, March 2020, when just everything just fell apart, right? We went from meeting every month to just with meeting every week on Zoom. And the and I know that if I had, look back, and this is kind of my why at Acumen, it's like, I look back when I was CEO, I didn't have anybody to talk to like that. And so I think I would have just been lost. What do I do? How do I, how are and just that team of guys saying, well, okay, so what are you doing? How are people working from home? Whatever. And then we brought in we brought in this woman from the Small Business Administration just to explain how the PPP funds and all that stuff worked. And all of our teams who were going to apply for that, they had their applications in on day one, and it was just like it just happened. And it was just such a beautiful testimony, I guess, to how a team like that of diverse businesses can work together and help each other so much. So I don't know. I measure it. It's pretty mushy, right? All the companies are growing. All the companies are doing well, but it's really kind of the satisfaction of me just watching how much more efficiently they're operating than when they started. So that's it.
Well, it sounds to me like you're helping shine the spotlight on others and helping others, in their stage show. And that's a pretty powerful thing when you focus on other people.
It's a lot more
I,
fun to focus on other people, that's for sure. So that's and maybe that's part of it, is when you think about maybe some of the maybe grandparents or older people or whatever that you knew, and it's like the ones that you really liked and the ones that just seemed to be crabby all the time. It really came down to ones that were just focused on themselves and their, just their health or how unhappy they are or whatever, versus the ones that are just always like, well, Dan, how are you doing? Well, and it's just better all the way around.
okay. What haven't I asked you? What other gems might you drip out here?
Oh, wow. Well, I just, I guess one of the interesting things that I wanted to share with you that I just ran across, and I had an investor in my in Handmark, a guy named Alan Patrikoff, and he's look him up sometimes. He was they call the inventor of modern venture capital. So he
Hmm.
he built a company called Apex, and they invested in early investors in Apple, early investors in AOL. They were the first investors in Audible. They were just like on and on and on. Just this, and Alan's a very, very wise guy. And when uh, he invested in my company when he was 72 years old. And when when I first met him, actually, I had my first meeting with him on the phone on the morning of my daughter's wedding in 2005. So I'm talking on the phone with him then, and I'm pitching my company to him, and I honestly didn't even know who this guy was, and he started telling me about his journey, and I finally said, Alan, I said, why in the world do you want to invest in my company? It's like you've done all these big things, and he just started laughing as well. He goes, I'm 72 years old. He goes, I tried to retire 2 years ago. I don't play golf. I don't have any other interests. He goes, I just love building companies. He goes, so I just peeled away $50 million, and we're going to invest in these companies, and so he ended up being an investor in my company, and it was just, I mean, so many great stories about him, but he just wrote a book, and it was basically he's now 90 years old. He he ran, I think, mostly walked the New York Marathon
Hmm.
just now, and he's decided that he's going to live till he's 114. And but he just started a venture fund, and the venture fund is called Prime Time, and he's investing in technologies around aging. He's basically,
Hmm.
and he said, and one of the interesting things he said is that the people that are born today will likely live until they're 100. And so then if you think about kind of the mindset that I grew up in, and perhaps you as well, is like, well, when you're around 60, it's time to retire. But that's 40 more years. And so I think when we talk about this subject that you brought up, the retirement thing and the R thing and all that, it's like, I just say, don't be in a hurry. It's like, um, I'm 70, I feel great. It's like, uh, I think staying engaged in business uh, for a long time is I don't know. I think keeps you sharper and healthier and all that stuff. So I guess that would be my parting message, right? It's just like, don't be such a hurry to retire. The beach thing isn't that cool, so.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. Okay, as we wrap up, how are you being sharpened, challenged, and inspired right now? What's sharpening your saw in your life?
Oh, wow. I think it's learning about AI.
Yeah.
I think I think that's a new challenge, and I'm desperately trying to sort of figure out what that means. And I think we all should be looking seriously at that.
Good. Uh, so where can people who want to find out more about you go to find out more about you, Augie? How can people connect with you?
Um, well, I think the three people that will watch this probably they could call me. Uh, I'm sorry. I've I've got a LinkedIn page, and um, and also you could just call Acumen and probably catch up with me. So I don't have a podcast or anything like that. So
We'll put his LinkedIn in the show notes. Along with that book, we'll need to get that book because I think that would be a fascinating.
well, I just heard Michael Lewis wrote a book about Sam Bankman-Fried, so I'm going to read that next. So
Yeah,
that sounds
yeah,
pretty interesting to me. I
yeah.
still don't understand cryptocurrency, nor do I know anybody who does at
Yes.
this point. So um, so that I guess the other book that I am just finishing, which is really interesting, and it's called Being Mortal. I don't know if, and that's yeah, it's a tough one, but it's about and it's interesting because it's about aging and about how the medical profession really is just goes down the wrong track often about um, treating cancer and stuff like that versus figuring out um, what end of life really looks like. So yeah, that's
Those are a lot of those are like all podcasts in of themselves. So we will definitely have you back to drain your brain, specifically around AI. Just from somebody who, anyway, lots of ideas have come off this of things that we should talk about in future things. So if thanks, man, really appreciate you uh, jumping in today and giving us some of your wisdom. If you are interested in becoming a member of Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com. You can click on the apply button in that upper right hand corner. If you are just curious, we have a ton of great content under the resources tab, ebooks, and all sorts of things that can bring you value. So until next time, thanks, Augie.
hey, thanks, Dan. I appreciate you.